Welcome back. Folks, it's a special trade deadline bonus episode. This past week, we saw a handful of MLB superstars change uniforms, while some teams went from pretenders to contenders. I am Grayson Knight, and this is Baseball Podcast Are Fun. Because so much happened this week, we're going to do something a bit different. Today's episode is actually two baseball podcasts in one. Joining me today is to discuss all the trades. Jameson Jones. Actually, I'm joining him because he came up with the idea originally. JJ plays on the 15U Sauce Athletics team, but he also happens to have his own show called the Boys on the Bases podcast. We're recording two episodes at once, and we got a lot of ground to cover. So, JJ, are you ready to start this thing?
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. This is one of the first episodes I had in mind when I started my podcast. Because I knew a bunch of deals were gonna go down. Not many that not as many as I thought that were gonna happen this week. It was a lot, and it's gonna be some good talks about this. I'm just ready to get into it.
Mhm. So this is gonna be fun and a real joyride. So can you tell the folks how this is gonna work?
All right, so we got it's like 20 plus trades that we're going to talk about. We'll each introduce like half and half. We'll probably go each by probably like skip each or whatever. And then we'll each talk about what we think and how it'll help the team and so on and so forth and how it's going to help the team in the future.
Mm. Okay. So who was the first trade that you highlighted?
All right, my first one and was the big like the major first major trade was utility man Kike Hernandez going to the back to Los Angeles Dodgers from the Red Sox, where the Red Sox will receive Nick Robertson and Justin Hagman. And also, the Red Sox are paying $2.5 million of Kike Hernandez's contract to play for them.
Hmm. I was actually really surprised about this because Kike Hernandez has not been the player he once was for the past few years, but he's been starting to heat up. And so I think the Dodgers needed a utility man like Kike, and they needed not someone really badly. So I think this is an okay trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't super surprised because I knew that right after that 2020 I think one season when the Red Sox made like the ALCS or whatever. That's when they started to go downhill. So that's when I started to expect a lot more things this season for the Red Sox to go down, even though they've been a pretty solid team this year. I just feel like Kike's roots are in Los Angeles, so
So
it's just a great thing to see him go
a
back.
fun fact is the Red Sox, who were last place in the AL East, would be first place in the AL Central, which is it's
Yeah,
mind blowing.
that division legitimately could have a losing record team in the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
All right, you ready to go to the next
It's
one?
yeah, it's basically the Twins and the Guardians, which are both like around 500 right now.
Yeah. All right, the next move is the Marlins will acquire right-handed pitcher Jorge Lopez from the Twins, and the Twins will acquire right-handed pitcher Dylan Floro from the Marlins. No money being traded between them there.
Mhm. So Dylan Floro hasn't been the best pitcher this season. AJ Puck pretty much was the closer for the entire season until David Robertson. We'll get to that trade later. David Robertson took over for AJ Puck. But Dylan Floro, he wasn't really used that much. So I think getting Jorge Lopez was a great acquire for the Marlins.
Yeah, that's great because Sandy Alcantara hasn't been that great of a pitcher this season after his Cy Young season last year. Um, so it's great to see that the Marlins are trying to get back ahead. Even though it might not help, it'll try to help them get into a wild card spot because it looks like the Braves are going to lock up
Mhm.
that NL East pretty
Yeah,
easily.
no doubt the Braves are gonna win the NL East and they're 100% gonna make it to the playoffs. They're the top team right now to win the World Series, just by odds and percentage points. So the Marlins, they're trying to compete with the Phillies, the Giants, a bunch of other
Hmm.
teams for that final NL wildcard spot.
Yeah, it's great to see that the Marlins are trying to now do some stuff after not being the greatest of teams the past couple of years.
Hmm. And
All right,
this actually been one of the best Marlins teams since the 2003 Marlins World Series win.
yeah. After that, it was really downhill from there.
Hmm.
All right, The next move is the Dodgers trade right-handed pitcher Noah Syndergaard to the Guardians for shortstop Ahmed Rosario.
So
It's a little bit of a different move from what I've seen. I'd like to see your take on this move.
I watched a video on how Ahmed Razar has been because I'm not a huge Guardian. I'm not a huge any fan besides a Rays fan, but I do follow every single team, and Ahmed Razar has not been the best shortstop in the
Hmm.
in the major leagues this year, and certainly one of the worst. And the trade, the Noah Syndergaard trade, Noah Syndergaard has not been a great pitcher, so it's kind of a lose-lose. But and then when you see Noah Syndergaard throwing a great star and Ahmed Rosario hitting like 500 in his first games for the Guardians, you're kind of started like what happened?
Yeah. Moves like these are definitely difficult moves for teams to make because you're trading a right-handed pitcher that has a little bit of promise still in him for a shortstop that hasn't been the flashiest ever, like Noah Syndergaard has been before. It's just a different move, and you want to hope that it works out, which it has been working out for each team's pretty well. So it's definitely a different move, but I feel like it worked out for both teams so far. We'll just see how it works for these next couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the Guardians make the playoffs this season, how Noah Syndergaard will work.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I know this isn't a move. This first part of it isn't a move, but I definitely think we had to take consideration of this. The Angels took Shohei Ohtani off the trade board. How do you think about that?
Uh, well, at first when I heard about, I'm like, it's not a great decision because first of all, I want him to go to the Rays because I'm a Rays fan. But also,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Angels are gonna re-sign him because they don't really
Hmm.
have that much money, and even if they do make it to the playoffs, which is a very low percentage, they're probably not going to get Otani back. And so
Hmm.
basically, what I thought was they're just not getting anyone to lose Otani.
Yeah. It's it's definitely a move that the Angels probably took a big bite with. Because Shohei has a lot of trade opportunity, and you can get a lot of good prospects. Like you trade him to the Yankees, you get Jason Dominguez, you get uh a bunch of their other trade, you get a bunch of their other prospects because they're willing to give up their top three prospects plus a bunch of guys that are currently in the MLB right now. And other teams like the Dodgers will do the same thing. And you take them off the trade board when you more than likely know because you're still paying Trout for his contract. Um, it's just it's not a move that I think the Angels should have taken. I think they should have just I think they should have just traded him because what they did after is they traded for Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez from the White Sox. Well, the White Sox got catcher Edgar Cuero and left-handed pitcher Kai Bush. So they know they want to be competitive, but they're not making the best moves because Giolito hasn't been the greatest pitcher ever. And you get Ronaldo Lopez, who's shown promise. It's just he's just another guy that you never know with.
Giolito, I know it was against the Braves, but in his first start against Atlanta, he gave up 4 runs in 3 innings. He got taken out in the fourth inning. It didn't look great. And Reynaldo Lopez, he's actually been a great arm for the White Sox, but now
Hmm.
that he's on the Angels, he hasn't really shown that.
Hmm. Because you also know the Angels haven't been historically good with pitchers. Like, I mean, Otani has like a 3 something ERA right now. He's
And
still a
and it's
great
and
pitcher.
it leads the Angels in ERA.
Yeah, they haven't been historically good with pitching since like having, I think they had who was it? Uh, Raisel Iglesias the other like a couple years ago, and they traded him to the Braves. He was probably been their best pitcher in a little bit. Um, it's just it's it's difficult to see what the Angels are thinking with taking Otani off the board and then trading for pitchers when they know they haven't been great at producing pitchers.
Hmm. Just like Aaron Loop, he was a great pitcher for the Rays, the Mets, but when he went to the Angels, he's like a 5 something ERA now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yep. You ready to move to the next one? That was a big one to talk about.
Yeah. I'm
All
ready.
right, so we kind of got two smaller trades that we can kind of mix into one. We have Carlos Santana being traded to the Brewers for Johnny Severino of the Pirates, and then David Robertson being traded to the Marlins from the Mets, and the Mets get Marco Vargas and Ronaldo Hernandez. I think the Santana move was a good move on the Pirates' part because the Pirates haven't been competitive since the start of the season. Um, and the Brewers will definitely be able to use them because their first base spot is very open. He's a very solid first baseman. And with the David Roberts situation, the Marlins are trying to get pitching, which is their weak point right now. And the Mets are still getting prospects, which they desperately need right now because they just traded away their two best pitchers, which we'll talk about later.
Mhm. Carlos Santana has actually been a really good bat for the Pirates. He hit that walk-off home run and that great
Mhm.
celebration. I saw him
Most
hit
iconic celebration.
I saw him hit 2 home runs against Yu Darvish in San Diego. Yeah, he's been really good, but now that he's on the Brewers, I think he only has 1 or 2 home runs on the Brewers.
Hmm.
Uh, he's been okay. He's not been the best hitter. But we're just gonna see where that trade takes him and see if the Brewers make the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. The Brewers personally, I don't think are going to make the playoffs this year. They say right now if the season ended, they'd be a wild card team. I just don't see that. I feel like this is the Marlins are trying to be better. They might have a chance,
Maybe even the
or
Reds.
maybe yeah. I think the Reds are going to win the NL Central because they've been the best team in the NL Central all this year. I feel like a team like the D-backs or somebody in the NL West or the Marlins in the NL East are going to take that. I don't think there's going to be two NL Central teams in the playoffs this year.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate to see it because I love the Cardinals, but it's not their year this year, man.
Yeah, it definitely is not their year. But
Yep.
speaking of the Cardinals, do you think it was a good idea or a bad idea to not trade any of their star players like Arenado or Goldschmidt?
I think it's a good move because they're paying them a lot of money. They're kind of doing what the uh Angels are doing with Otani. Um, but they're doing two guys instead of one, and they're two guys that are cornerstone to the franchise. I feel like what I'm giving, like for what I'm thinking, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that Pujols is not there. Pujols and Molina are not there. Every time, this is like our in my generation since we've had Pujols and Molina, we haven't had this bad of a season so far because the guys in the clubhouse have bonded well with both of the guys. Like you've seen like videos and pictures of the guys last year instead of going to the hitting coach after at bats, going to Pujols. I mean, yeah, going to Pujols. So they're more like they like those guys better. Um, so I feel like they've got to get a guy similar to that, which I think is what they're trying to do with Goldie and Nato, being trying to be veteran players and
Mhm.
staying in the organization for a while.
Also, the Cardinals haven't been bad in the second half. They're like
Mhm.
500 in the second half, and they've been doing a lot better as of late. And I
Yeah,
think in 2024 they can make a playoff push.
yeah. We've got good prospects down in Double A right now. It'll be exciting to see the September call ups to see who they call up. Because yeah, I feel like in September, if we're maybe in the third spot in the division, if we bring up some of our good prospects, so we got some pretty good like pitching prospects and Tink Henderson down there. Um, if we bring them up, we might be able to sneak into a look to like the last wild card spot. It's gonna be exciting to see these last couple of weeks in the MLB season for all divisions because it's been such a wild year so far.
Both the AL and NL wild cards are really close.
Yeah. All right. The next major move is Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly being traded from the White Sox to the Dodgers, where the White Sox get a haul with outfielder Trace Thompson and two right-handed pitchers and Nick Nastorini and Jordan Leisure.
Um, let's skip to Joe Kelly first. I think I just saw the Padres and Dodgers game last night. Joe Kelly
Hmm.
one a great 1-2-3 inning. And he's just a great guy. He throws gas. He's just a great arm to have. The White Sox, they had a really good bullpen. Maybe not anymore, but
Yeah.
They really did. That might have been their strong suit. But skipping on over to Lance Lynn, ever since the World Baseball Classic, he has not been great. Um,
Yeah.
he has not really what the White Sox hope from for this season.
Lance Lynn's just been, if I think of a pitcher that has been average in the MLB, I go straight to Lance Lynn. He has had moments of promise on the Rangers and Cardinals, and he goes to teams like the White Sox and then now the Dodgers, and he's been below average in all the spots. When you think of average, you think of Lance Lynn,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. And then going to Joe Kelly, in my opinion, he is a top 10 reliever in the league right now. People are saying that Lance Lynn's the main guy. Joe Kelly has a nasty sinker that he can throw hard with 101, or 102, something like that. And he can locate it very well. That's not like guys like Jordan Hicks or Johan Duran, who are throwing like 103 plus, but are throwing more balls. He can locate that very well, and he could probably get up to that 103, 104 like Hicks and Duran are. He's just choosing to get accuracy but still being fast and having movement. I think that's great. I feel like the prospects that the White Sox are getting are also good too, because you saw Trace Thompson hit that bomb for the great for the what's it
Great
called,
Britain.
United Kingdom in the World Baseball Classic. So he's shown promise on the high level, and they have two pitching prospects to get back. Plus, with having Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly on, I feel like it's a pretty good move all around.
Mm-hmm. So next one.
All right, the next move is right-handed pitcher Kendall Graveman going back to the Astros for catcher Corey Lee of the White Sox.
Mm-hmm. Just another trade of dismantling the White Sox great bullpen. Kendall Graveman has been great this year. Maybe not so far in the Astros. Uh, so far in the Astros, he hasn't been great. But for the White Sox, he was really, really good. Not as good as Joe Kelly, but uh,
Mhm.
like really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like Kendall Graveman's home is in Houston. He's been in Houston before. He knows the deal. And he's been great with Houston. It's just like he got to get paid more when he went to the White Sox. Um, so it's great to see guys that are going back to their former teams, like a guy going by JV. We'll talk about in a little bit. And Corey Lee's a pretty good catching prospect too. It's just these weird trades where it's 1-for-1 with opposite positions. It's difficult for teams to know what they're doing. Uh, with those players. All right. This is one of the biggest moves of the trade deadline. We have Max Scherzer being traded to the Rangers from the Mets for infielder Luis Angel Acuna. The
Mhm.
weirdest move of the trade deadline, in my opinion.
Mm.
The Mets will also pay $22.5 million of Scherzer's contract next season. And when he accepts his player his contract for player offer from the Rangers, which will make him play next season.
So let's go back to that David Robertson trade. I saw a video that Max Scherzer was really really mad at the Mets that for trading their closer away. Edwin Diaz gone, David Robertson gone. They can't really do anything. So when Max Scherzer's traded, like the Mets they can't do anything. They have nothing in
Mhm.
them. And then when the JV trade, we'll see in a minute. Um, there's no hope. There's no hope for the Mets.
It's they said I saw an article somewhere, I think it was from Bleacher Report, that before when the Mets were talking with Verlander, when they accepted the trade with the Rangers and they were talking about his no trade clause or whatever, um, they said that they weren't going to be competitive until 2026. Verlander and Scherzer, who we'll get to later, they're not going to want to stay on that team who's not going to be competitive until 2026. It's just not going to happen for two of the best pitchers in the league right now, especially since they're both getting old. They don't want to stay on a team that's not going to be competitive for another like 3 years and then be competitive again, but they can go to a team that's already competitive this season. I'm gonna mix these two up again because they're both Cardinals trades. All right, the first one is the Cardinals trade reliever Jordan Hicks to the Blue Jays for two right-handed pitchers and Adam Kloffenstein. I hope I said that right. And Sam Roberts. And the Rangers get Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals as well as Chris Stratton. And the Cardinals will get left-handed pitcher John King, right-handed pitcher Deboka Robbie, and infielder Thomas Sagas.
So let's skip to the Rangers. Jordan Montgomery has actually lived up to the expectations, and he's been really, really good this season. Probably their top arm, better than Wainwright, probably better than Michaelis. Yeah, but when Jordan Montgomery got traded, just like the Mets, there's like no hope for the Cardinals. And trading
Mm-hmm.
away Jordan Hicks, their closer, they still have Ryan Helsley, but Jordan Hicks, who
He's on the 60-day right now, though.
so they have no closer basically. They're just
Yep.
not going to win any games.
Yep. Because we know because Jordan Hicks was due up, his contract was due up this season. He has one of his best seasons by far this season. We're gonna have to pay him more. We're not gonna want to pay him more. Similar with Montgomery, we're not gonna want to pay him more because he's been our top guy and he has a lot of trade opportunity, like we saw here. And Stratton was just another guy we could have used. But he just to get all those guys, which I like the haul that we got. I feel like we had a great trade deadline with all the guys that we traded in. I feel like we got a bunch of good prospects that can develop well. It's going to be a very new look Cardinals team in the future. All right. Um we can talk about this one for a little bit. There's not really much to talk about. The Braves trade for infielder Nicky Lopez from the Royals and Taylor Huron goes to the Braves. I mean, it's the Braves doing Braves things, getting little guys to fix up little blind spots in their team.
Mm-hmm.
Not something huge, not anything to worry about for either team. It's just something that will help the Braves a little bit to fill in their last couple of things that they need. And we'll get to Brad Hand with the Braves in a little bit too.
I didn't really know much about this trade. I didn't know about it until a few days ago. So I really don't have anything to say about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Next one is the Angels trade for Randall Grichuk and CJ Crone from the Rockies, and the Rockies acquire Mason Albright and John Madden, both a lefty and a right-handed pitcher.
So Randall Grichuk, he's been great for the Rockies. CJ Crone has also been great for the Rockies. He hit that 504-foot home run last year. And I saw the Angels game a few days ago where CJ Crone hit like a game tying home run or something like that. Angels still lost
Mm-hmm.
because they're the Angels. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so yeah, I guess the Angels won in that trade, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely a good move for the Angels since they're trying to be competitive. I don't know how well they're going to be, even though after these moves. But it's also just the Rockies in general too. The Rockies, I don't expect them to be good for a very long time.
Mhm.
Um, it won't be till maybe I have children that they're going to be good. They're not going to make the playoffs in a loaded NL West. They're not going to make a World Series. I don't think ever. Um, like all they basically have going for them is the highest elevation stadium in baseball. So you have young guys want to go play there to hit as far as they can. Like I mean, that's why you had the home run derby there. That's the
Mhm.
best thing that's come out of Colorado in a while. So
When
it's
when you think of consistently bad, you think of the Colorado Rockies. They haven't made the
yeah,
playoff since like 2014 or something like that.
yeah, yep. Just it's a good move in for the Angels, not a good move for the Rockies. All right. Now this move, I know you're gonna like it because it's one of my most underrated moves in my opinion, and it's also a Rays move. The Rays will get right-handed pitcher Aaron Savali from the Guardians, and the Guardians will get first baseman Kyle Manzarato.
Mm.
Aaron Savali, he's been a very solid pitcher in his career, and being a one for one with a guy that's gonna have that has a little bit of promise and in a Rays organization that have built up prospects since day one of their organization. It's a great move for the Rays in general to get rid of a guy that might not have been the greatest, and getting in a right-handed pitcher has been pretty good his whole career. One of the most underrated moves, in my opinion.
Uh, well, first of all, I'm just gonna say I don't like the trade because Aaron Savali got the loss for the Rays today. So,
Hmm.
but overall, Aaron Savali before this morning had a six innings of one hit baseball.
Mhm.
Had a phenomenal start the start before. And yes, Aaron Savali is a really good pitcher overall, and he's gonna be good when the Rays make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. It's a great move. Another great move, and there's a guy that we know in this trade. The Diamondbacks acquire right-handed pitcher Paul Sewald from the Mariners, and the Mariners get infielder Josh Rojas, utility man Dominic Cazone, and infielder Ryan Bliss. It's a very
So
good move, in my opinion. I want to see what you think about this.
I if I'm the Seattle Mariners, I don't know why they did that because the Mariners are beating the Angels in the AL wild card. They're leading in the AL wild card. So I don't know why they did it, and I don't know why they didn't get a closing pitcher out of it.
Yep.
Josh Rojas has been good for the Diamondbacks, but not like Ketel Marte good or Christian Walker good or Evan Longoria good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh, it's a great move for the D-backs. Just trying to push them again over that hump to try to get into a wild card, which I do see the Diamondbacks making the wild card. Because like I said in my last episode, I thought the AL East would have four playoff teams. I uh I think I kind of jinxed it. Only the Rays and
Yankees.
Baltimore Orioles have been good since I've made that episode, really. You've had the Red Sox and the Yankees not been that great. I think I jinxed it a little bit, man. I think it's opening up spots for like the Astros and stuff
The
like that.
Angels and yeah.
Yeah.
Um so I really hope that the Rays make the playoffs. It's very likely that they do. Hopefully the Orioles can stop losing when the Rays do and the Orioles can stop winning when the Rays win. So they can uh just get get past the Orioles, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. They're 2 games back right now. It's really tough.
Yep. Yep. Um, I feel like the Mariners also got a good haul in because Rojas has been good, Cazone has been good, and Bliss has been good. They've all been solid this season. They're gonna be really good in my opinion. I'm gonna mix in these next two again just to get it going a little bit faster. The Mets and Brewers do a 1-for-1 with Mark Canha and Justin Jarvis. The Brewers get Mark Canha, and the Mets get right-handed pitcher Justin Jarvis. And the Cubs acquire infielder Jeimer Candelario from the Nationals and the Cub and the hold up. The Nationals get DJ Hers and infielder Kevin Made, and then the Cubs get Jeimer Candelario. Both two good moves that teams needed to make to get rid of guys that are gonna have to pay this offseason. What do you think about those?
Jeimer Candelario has been the Nationals third baseman. I'm surprised that Alex Call didn't get traded as well because he has been
Hmm.
uh the the Nationals all-star. I'm pretty sure he was the only one, in fact. And him and Jeimer Candelario are the only two producing in that
Hmm.
tough Nationals lineup.
Yep. Yeah, Janer Candelario has shown promise in the league. Um, and I mean he's on the Nationals, and if you're a good guy on guys like on teams like the Nationals or the Rockies or now the Pirates, you're gonna get traded away. Like you saw it with the Pirates last year. They traded away what was the second baseman? I think his name was Adam. I forgot what his last name was. And they're about to trade away Brian Reynolds. It's tough going to those teams because they're one of the only teams that can pay you. Um, and you know you're gonna get traded away. And then for the Brewers and Mets, Mark Canha, you're gonna have to pay him again because he's been solid, and you're getting a pitching prospect after trading away. Well, at the time, just trading away Max Scherzer. and then JV getting traded later.
Mhm.
Um, Now this is in my opinion the weirdest trade of the trade deadline. The Giants get outfielder AJ Pollock and utility man Mark Mathias from the Mariners for a player to be named later or cash.
So
AJ AJ Pollock's been great, and you're trading a guy that you never knew or cash. Like it's
like
just such a weird
what's the
move.
point? Like, what if
Yeah,
they keep the cash? All you're getting is cash. So I mean,
yeah.
it's
Because
I
AJ Pollock has been great
mhm.
and for the Mariners.
And
And
the Mariners
uh
are right there. They're right there. If the season ended today, they'd be in the playoffs.
yeah, it's just it's difficult to see that because it's just difficult to see, man. Next one, the Braves get left-handed pitcher Brad Hand, and the Rockies get right-handed pitcher Alec Barger. Similar with it's the Braves doing Braves things, trying to fill in spots that they need or whatever, and the Rockies being the Rockies. Not much really to say.
Hmm. So the Braves, they've been really good on acquiring pitching. They
Hmm.
got Yanni Chirinos, who got DFA'd by the Rays. They got Brad Hand. Brad Hand has been really good for the Rockies, and of course they traded him away because they're the Rockies. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's pretty much all to say. Braves are 100% going to make the playoffs.
Yep. All right, next, the Padres get Rich Hill and G-Man Choi from the Pirates, and the Pirates get left-handed pitcher Jackson Wolf, outfielder Estuar Suero, and first baseman Alfonso Rivas.
So a really good haul for the Pirates who are trying to really get that rebuild done. G-Man Choi, he's been great for the past few years with the Rays and the Pirates. Rich Hill, he's been on like over 10 teams through and he's on his age 43 season or something like that. He's one of the oldest in the league. He's probably gonna retire after this or next season. So I mean it's it's the Padres. They're trying to make the playoff push, but it's not likely to happen.
Yep, because yeah, it's just the Padres are having a down year this season. So, and same with the Pirate. It's a weird trade between the two teams because the Padres I don't see making the playoffs, and the Pirates are definitely not making the playoffs.
Mm. I
So,
mean,
yep,
what's crazy to me is the Pirates were actually number one in the NL at one point in the season.
yep, yep, and then they fell off like a bunch of teams do. All right, next, which this is another weird trade, which I don't feel like people talk about enough. The Blue Jays get infielder Paul DeYoung from the Cardinals plus cash considerations, and the Cardinals get right-handed pitcher Matt Swanson. I don't know why this trade wasn't included in the trade with Jordan Hicks because I feel like we could have gotten a lot more if we traded those two at the same time. I feel like we would have got more because it's more they're worth more when they're both as a package instead of separate.
Mhm. I mean, the Cardinals are dismantling. They're the Cardinals. Uh, Paul DeYoung, it has been okay. I don't really follow the Cardinals. You can fill me in, but I guess Paul DeYoung has been really good for the past few years.
Yep. Yep. All right. Really our last major move. The Astros get right-handed pitcher Justin Verlander from the Mets as they acquire two outfielders in the Astros' number one prospect Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford. The Mets are also paying $35 million of Justin Verlander's contract and 17.5 million if he accepts his player option to play with the Astros next in the 2025 season. So it means the Astros are playing his full 2024 contract, and the Mets and Astros are both paying a little bit of his 2025 contract if he accepts the player option.
Mhm. So JV, the last year Cy Young, I mean, both 2023 Cy Youngs have not had a great start to their season. Sandy Alcantara has not been great overall. JV started his season injured and on one of his first starts gave up like 4 runs. Um, but JV has been doing great as of late, and I think this is a great trade for the Astros.
Yeah. It's good to see what the Mets got too, because it seems like not a lot, but you got the number one prospect in their organization in Drew Gilbert and another outfielder in Ryan Clifford, which the Mets need outfielders right now. Um, I I expect them, if I don't know if they're in the league right now, I expect them to be both September call ups for the Mets. Um, it's just it sucks what the Mets have to do because they're not being a competitive team this year, and they had the highest payroll in the league. It's just definitely difficult to see.
They gave
Um,
$300 million to players, and they have
mhm.
wasted $270 million to players. Max Scherzer gone, JV gone, David Robertson gone. It's Mets fans. I feel bad for them.
Yep. I'm gonna mix in these two again because these last couple ones are just little minor ones to fill in gaps for a couple of teams. The Phillies get the All-Star Michael Lorenzen from the Tigers, and the Tigers get Ho-Yu Lee. The Brewers get left-handed pitcher Andrew Chafin, and the D-backs get right-handed pitcher Peter Strelick. And infielder Jake Berger goes to the Mariners from the White Sox, who get Jake Eder. Three
So
just average moves.
Mhm. Michael Lorenzen, he's an all-star for a reason. He's been really good in his last start for the Phillies. Jake Berger, he should have been an all-star. I mean, if Otani wasn't
Mhm.
Otani, then he would have been an all-star. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Just three moves that teams got to make to try to be a little bit better. So not another thing that's crazy. Just the stuff that had to be done. The D-backs get outfielder Tommy Pham from the Mets, and the Mets get shortstop Jeremy Rodriguez. Tommy Pham's been very good. And he's gonna pair well with Corbin Carroll, in my opinion, in the outfield. Because they're both gonna be starting for that D-backs team trying to make another playoff push.
Tommy Pham has had a crazy season. He's played in the league for over 10 years now. He's played for over 10 teams. And I mean, going from team to team to team to team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like that, but I mean, who cares? The Diamondbacks are trying to make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah. Next, the Orioles get right-handed pitcher Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals for infielder Cesar Prieto and left-handed pitcher Drew Rom.
So Jack Flaherty had his first start for the Orioles yesterday. Really good 6 innings, no earned runs. And the Orioles won that game because the Rays won that game. So I mean, yeah, Jack Flaherty has been good for the Cardinals and the Orioles this season.
It's just another thing that not many people know is he's very injury prone. Um, he throws hard, but as a starting pitcher, throwing hard means you don't throw as many innings, and teams try to push like the Cardinals try to push him more innings, which give him a lot of injuries. Which I hope the Orioles know that and they can use him in shorter amount of times because they have a great bullpen and they got a pretty good haul. Like it's another great trade for the Cardinals, them still in my opinion, because they got great haul for them.
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna mix these two up again, and then probably mixing the next couple up because we only got a couple more. The Marlins get first baseman Josh Bell from the Guardians, and the Guardians get two infielders in Gene Segura and Khalil Watson. Actually, I'm not gonna mix that one in because I feel like that's a pretty good trade we can both talk about.
Josh Bell, he had a rough start to the season, but for the second half, he's probably all-star caliber. With the Guardians and the Mets, he has around 10 home runs. And yeah, he's been a really good bat for both teams. I think it was a lose-lose for the Guardians because they trade Josh Bell a good bat and then they DFA Gene Segura for some reason. So I don't know
Mhm.
why they did it.
I didn't even know that they DFA Gene Segura. He Gene Segura, he's like I said with Lance Lynn. If I think of an average just fielder overall, if you want to go specifically infield, I think Gene Segura. He can hit the ball pretty well. He's a pretty good fielder. He's just similar with Lance Lynn. He's been on teams that have been good, and he's been good, and he's been teams on bad, and he's been bad.
Mm.
You just think of him as an average. And then Cleo Watson, he's a pretty good prospect that the uh Guardians get. It sucks to see that the Guardians did DFA Segura after the trade deadline too, which means he's gonna have to be a free agent. He won't be able to be traded in that 7 day period. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna mix the last couple up, and then I'm gonna leave the last two to talk about individually. First baseman Garrett Cooper and right-handed pitcher Sean Reynolds go to the Padres, and the Marlins get left-handed pitcher Ryan Weathers, who is a very solid left-handed pitcher. The Mets get Bill Bickford after the Dodgers DFA'd him, and Adam Kolarek, and the Dodgers get cash considerations.
Uh,
And the last one I'm going to mix in is Scott Barlow going to the Padres from the Royals, who acquired two right-handed pitchers in Henry Williams and Henry Baez.
so first we're gonna talk about Scott Barlow. Scott Barlow has probably been one of the if it wasn't Salvador Perez, he'd be the Royals All-Star. He's been really good, and besides Aroldis Chapman going to the Rangers, he's been a really, really solid arm for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mixing in Phil Bickford too. He was DFA'd. He's a pretty solid pitcher. It's just he hasn't shown like major league promise yet. Because I mean, he gave up the 700 home run to
I was about
Pujols.
to say that, yeah.
He he's a nice guy. Obviously, yeah. You've seen like you saw the clip that went viral that he like thanked his coach or whatever after his first start. Um, he's a nice, genuine guy. It's just he just hasn't shown promise. And then with Garrett Cooper and Sean Reynolds, been good players in their own likes. I don't feel like the Padres should have gotten rid of Ryan Weathers. He's a great pitcher.
Mhm.
Um,
Uh,
that's a
Garrett
bad move on the
Cooper,
Padres' part.
Garrett Cooper was actually an All-Star last year, and I didn't even know he
Mhm.
was an All-Star or that he got traded until when I read over how many players got traded.
Yeah. All right, two more, and we can talk about these individually, or I can mix them in because it'll be quick. The Red Sox get infielder Luis Urias, and the Brewers get right-handed pitcher Bradley Block. And I'll just mix in the last one because it'll be quick. The Dodgers get Ryan Yarborough from the Royals, and the Royals get two infielders in Devin Mann and Derlin Figueroa.
So we'll go to the Ryan Yarbrough trade. So instead of Ryan Yarbrough, it would have been Eduardo Rodriguez of the Tigers, but he actually waived his player his what's it called?
No trade clause,
No trade
10
clause.
team, no
Yes,
trade clause.
a team no trade clause. And Dodgers is on that. And he says, no, I don't want a World Series ring. I want to stay in Detroit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like that's good for Eduardo because he's choosing who he wants to play for. It's a good move on him. He doesn't want to pay extra taxes like they have to in LA for income for not income just extra taxes in general, which is another thing which I didn't know about, so I was talking with my dad about it. Um, so and then the prospects that the Royals got back too. The Royals can build up prospects really easily because they have a good farm system, obviously. And then with the Urias trade, Urias has been a very solid player. Another pitching, so I feel like when the guy that with Bradley Bullock that got traded, I feel like that was a great move for them.
Hmm. I didn't. I don't really know about those trades until I read over them, so I can't really talk about the last ones.
Yep. And that's it. So I know you
Well,
got some other stuff you want to talk about.
that went really well. But before we end, I wanted to ask you some not so rapid fire questions that I do to every guest that comes on my show. You can answer with as much or as little info as you want. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
So first question, who do you got for the AL and NL comeback player of the year?
Ooh, that's tough.
Me and my dad were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. Um, for NL, I want to I want to say JD Martinez. I feel like either JD Martinez. I feel like JD Martinez for the NL. He's been a great DH for the Dodgers. He's not obviously a great fielder, so he fits like very well in that DH role. The AL, man, that's tough. I
So
would say Michael Lorenzen, even though he did just get traded to the Phillies.
no,
Um,
Michael Lorenzen.
yeah, I can't say him.
I know who I would have from
Maybe
now.
maybe Eduardo Rodriguez. He's really the only guy I can think of. Like
So for the
it's that the comeback player of the year is tough, man.
I think it would
Um,
Liam Hendricks for me in the AL, but since he just got injured,
oh yeah,
not
yeah,
uh and for the NL, I think mine would be Cody Bellinger, having one
okay,
of the
yeah,
best
I could see
bounce
that.
back seasons ever. And
Yeah,
but JD Martinez, I didn't think about that. That is really, really good. But
yep,
for the AL, I would pick Salvador Perez.
yeah, that's another good one. It's this the comeback player of the year is tough. It's because you never know like where you're standing at with that, so it's just tough.
My dad was saying, uh, there's a good and a bad at winning comeback player of the year. The good is winning comeback player of the year, but the bad is being bad the
Yeah,
season prior. So
yep.
it's kind of a good or get bad thing. So what's your favorite cereal?
Here, oh, cinnamon toast crunch, I think.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Not my favorite, but it is really, really good. I like that.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite ballpark you visited?
Ooh, I haven't visited many. Uh, I gotta go with Busch Stadium though.
Of course. That's the only stadium my dad hasn't been to in the NL.
Okay,
He's been to
yeah,
all 28 he's been to 28 stadiums except for Busch Stadium and Kauffman Stadium.
yep, yeah. I love Busch Stadium because the only time I was in there, I sat in a box, which that was nice, with a bunch of my family or whatever. Sadly, we lost, but that was good. But the good thing that was good though, when we were driving back home after the game, we were listening to the game. The Cardinals won, and the Rockies beat the Brewers, so we ended up clinching the NL Central. If they would have won, and the Rockies ended up beating the Brewers, if we would have won that game before, we would have clinched the NL Central, which sucks because I would have liked to be there when when they clinched the NL Central and playoff berth.
Wow. Um so Otani is going to win AL MVP if he doesn't get injured. But who won MVP in the NL?
Cunha. You have to go with Acuna.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, unless he gets injured, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um. Yeah. If Acuna gets injured, I think you can also go with Matt Olson too.
You can go with
Um.
Matt Olson. You could go with someone on the Dodgers. Uh,
hmm
maybe even Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
But Corbin Carroll's gonna win
You
MVP.
have to go with Acuna though. It's
Yeah.
just
First 50 stolen base season since 2016. Uh,
yeah.
and he hits for power too. 25 home runs. Yeah, you got to go with
Yep.
Acuna. What's your favorite
He'll
baseball
be in
movie?
the 40-40 club.
Mm, What's your favorite baseball movie?
I like A League of Their Own.
A League of Their Own. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time someone's actually said that on this podcast.
Yep. I like A League of Their Own. I like Angels in the Outfield. I like Sandlot. I like all the baseball movies. But if I have to go number one, I have to go A League of Their Own. Number two, Angels in the Outfield. Number three, Sandlot.
Okay.
If I could watch any movie for the rest of my life, and any three movies, it'd be those three.
And last one, what is your favorite baseball memory as a player or fan?
So I'll go as a player first. Um, Not since I haven't hit a home run yet. I would say that if I would have hit a home run. Um, it was I think I was 7 or 8. It was my first travel ball season, my first or second travel ball season, and we were in the semifinals, and I got a walk off to go to our first championship as a travel ball player. And
Wow.
I liked that moment because
That's
my dad was the coach at the time too. And right when I stepped on second for the double and the runner scored, everybody came out, and it was a great moment.
hmm
And
Well,
then as a fan, um, I mean, I go to the Stripers games a lot, so there's a lot of memories as the Stripers that I like. with the fireworks and seeing home runs or whatever. And there was one game that we went to that one of the transformers, when the lights blew up, and that was fun because you got to see like a bunch of the players out on the field doing weird antics or whatever. So that was fun.
Well, Jameson, we did it. I glad we joined forces. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was great. I loved it, dude.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell your listeners how they can find and support your podcast?
All right. So currently I'm on Spotify on the Boys on the Bases podcast on Spotify, hoping in the future to start getting onto YouTube and to other different platforms. But for now, you can see me on Spotify and on Instagram, both under the username of the Boys on the Bases podcast. I post a lot on there, and yeah, I like to do this a lot. So hopefully I can get a lot more traction out of this.
And to my listeners, you can support my show by subscribing to Baseball Podcasts Are Fun on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube, and going to my website, baseballpodcasterfun.com. Please join me next week for an all-new guest. Until then, that was Jameson Jones. I'm Grayson Knight, and this was Baseball Podcasts Are Fun. Don't forget to swing for the fences. See ya!